The alarm blared through the command bridge of the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Kethver stood tall, his blue skin glowing with the heat of battle readiness. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced speed. The Zephyrian fleet had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They knew every ship, every weapon, every threat that existed in known space. "Report," Admiral Kethver commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. His red eyes fixed on the main display screen. Commander Vextar, his second-in-command, checked. The sensor readings again. His clawed fingers tapped against the console. "Admiral, we have an unknown contact approaching from Sector 7-9. The signature is massive, bigger than our largest dreadnoughts." The Admiral's jaw tightened. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a ship larger than Zephyrian vessels. Their technology was the best in the galaxy. Their ships were the strongest. Their weapons were the most deadly. "Speed?" Admiral Kethver asked. "That's the problem, sir. It's moving faster than our fastest scouts, but the mass readings suggest it should be impossible." The ship is over 1 kilometer long. The bridge fell silent. Even the Zephyrian Empire's greatest battleships were only 800 meters long. Ship that size moving at such speed defied everything they knew about physics and engineering. "Battle stations," Admiral Kethver ordered. Red lights bathed the bridge as the crew prepared for combat. "Signal the fleet. Form attack formation Beta 7. Across the fleet, 25 Zephyrian warships moved into position. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Their shields could withstand the combined assault of most known alien fleets. The Zephyrians had never lost a space. "Battle. Contact is dropping out of hyperspace," Commander Vextar announced. The main screen flickered as the unknown vessel appeared. Every Zephyrian on the bridge froze. The ship that emerged from the swirling energy of hyperspace was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was massive, just as the sensors had indicated. But it was the design that made their blood run cold. Where Zephyrian ships were smooth and curved, built for speed and elegance, this vessel was angular and brutal. It looked like it had been built for one purpose: war. The hull was dark gray, almost black. Strange markings covered its surface. Weapon ports dotted every section of the ship. But these weren't the clean energy weapon arrays the Zephyrians were. Used to seeing, these looked different. Primitive, yet somehow more dangerous. "Analysis," Admiral Kethver demanded, though his voice had lost some of its confidence. The science officer's hands shook as he read the data. "Admiral, the ship appears to be made of an unknown metal alloy. The hull is thicker than anything in our database. The weapon systems, we can't identify them. They don't match any known technology." Commander Vextar studied the tactical display. "Sir, the ship isn't moving to attack position. It's just sitting there." The unknown vessel hung in space like a sleeping giant. It made no aggressive moves. It didn't power up weapons or raise shields. It simply waited. "Maybe they don't see us as a threat," one of the junior officers suggested. Admiral Kethver's eyes narrowed. A ship that size doesn't ignore a fleet of 25 warships unless it doesn't need to worry about them. Minutes passed in tense silence. The Zephyrian fleet maintained their attack formation, but the unknown ship remained still. Finally, the communications console lit up. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer reported. "It's on standard galactic frequencies." "Put it through," Admiral Kethver ordered. The main screen changed to show the interior of the unknown ship's bridge. The beings that appeared were unlike any species in the galactic database. They were bipedal, with pale skin and strange hair. Growing from their heads, their eyes were small compared to most intelligent species, and they had only 2 arms. The being in the center chair wore what appeared to be a military uniform. His bearing suggested command experience, but his face showed a calmness that was disturbing. Most species showed either fear or aggression when faced with a Zephyrian fleet. This being showed neither. "I am Captain Jack Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Manhattan," the being said. His voice was steady and clear. "We come in peace, but we notice you've arranged your ships in an attack formation. Is there some misunderstanding we need to clear up?" Admiral Kethver stepped forward. "I am Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire. You're in Zephyrian space without permission." Identify your species and state your intentions. Captain Morrison smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. It was the smile of someone who knew something others didn't. We're human, from the planet Earth. As for our intentions, we're here to talk. But Admiral, I should point out that this isn't Zephyrian space. According to our maps, this system belongs to no one. Your maps are wrong, Commander Vexstar interrupted. Oh. The Zephyrian Empire has claimed this territory for over 200 years, actually. It hasn't, Captain Morrison replied calmly. We've been monitoring galactic politics for quite some time. This system was never officially claimed by any government. But that's not important right now. What matters is that we need to talk. Admiral Kethfer felt a chill run through his body. These humans had been watching them for how long? Why had no one detected them? How long have you been observing us? He asked. Captain Morrison's expression didn't change. Long enough to know that you're not the real threat to galactic peace. There's something else coming. Something that will make our current disagreements seem very small. The Zephyrian admiral looked at his massive fleet, then back at the lone human ship. Something about the human captain's confidence was deeply unsettling. A single ship against 25 of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy, and the humans showed no fear at all. What do you mean, something else coming? Admiral Kethfer asked. Captain Morrison leaned forward in his chair. That's what we need to discuss. But first, you might want to stand down your weapons. We'd hate for there to be any accidents. Admiral Kethfer stared at the human captain on his screen. The confidence in Captain Morrison's voice made his scales itch with unease. No species had ever spoken to a Zephyrian fleet commander with such casual authority. Stand down our weapons? Commander Vexstar stepped forward, his forearms clenched into fists. Admiral, this human insults us. It's one ship against our entire fleet, and he makes demands. Captain Morrison's image on the screen tilted his head slightly. Commander Vexstar, isn't it? Not making demands. I'm offering friendly advice. Your weapons can't penetrate our shields anyway, so why waste the energy? The bridge fell silent. Admiral Kethfer felt his blood pressure rise. You claim our weapons are useless against you? I don't claim anything, Captain Morrison replied. I state facts. Would you like me to prove it? Before Admiral Kethfer could respond, another voice came from the human ship. Captain, this is Lieutenant Commander Sarah Blake. I have Admiral Kethfer's complete military record, battle history, and psychological profile ready for review. The Admiral's red eyes widened. How do you have my military records? Sarah Blake appeared on a smaller section of the screen. She was younger than Captain Morrison, with dark hair and sharp eyes. Admiral, we've been monitoring galactic communications. For 67 years, we know more about Zephyrian military structure than most Zephyrians do. 67 years? Admiral Kethfer's voice cracked slightly. That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected you. Your sensors detect what they're designed to detect, Sarah Blake explained. We simply made sure we didn't match those parameters. It's not difficult when you understand the technology being used to look for you. Commander Vexstar moved to his weapons console. Admiral, let me show these humans what Zephyrian firepower can do. Commander, I wouldn't recommend that, Captain Morrison said calmly. But if you insist on a demonstration, we're happy to oblige. Sarah, bring up the tactical display. The screen split again. Now it showed the positions of all 25 Zephyrian ships from the human ship's perspective. But the display showed more than just positions. It showed shield strength, weapon charge levels, and crew numbers for each vessel. How are you? Scanning through our shields? Admiral Kethfer demanded. We're not scanning through them, Sarah Blake answered. We're reading the energy signatures they produce. Every shield system creates unique patterns. We've had 67 years to study those patterns. Captain Morrison leaned back in his command chair. Admiral, your flagship's main cannon is currently charged to 87%. Your port shield generator has a slight power fluctuation that reduces efficiency by 3%. Your crew of 412 includes 23 officers who are concerned about this encounter. The accuracy of the information made Admiral Kethfer step backward. You're reading our minds?
Ow.
Captain Morrison smiled that unsettling smile again. We're reading your biosigns through your hull. Stress hormones, heart rate variations, electrical activity. It's all detectable if you know what to look for. Commander Vextar's claws clicked against his console. This is some kind of trick. No technology is that advanced. Commander Sarah Blake addressed him directly. Your stress levels just spiked to dangerous levels. You should consider breathing exercises. Zephyrian physiology can't handle prolonged stress without health consequences. The commander's jaw dropped open. His stress levels were indeed climbing, but no one should be able to detect that from outside the ship. What do you want from us? Admiral Kethfer asked. The question came out more desperately than he intended. Captain Morrison's expression grew serious. We want to save your species, and every other species in this galaxy. Save us from what? From yourselves. First, Captain Morrison replied. Admiral, in the past 50 years, how many wars has the Zephyrian Empire fought? Admiral Kethfer thought quickly. 7 major conflicts, perhaps 15 smaller ones. 23 total, Sarah Blake corrected, including 3 that nearly resulted in planetary extinction events. The war with the Helix Confederation in particular came very close to destroying 4 inhabited worlds. How could you know details about classified military operations? Commander Vextar demanded. Because we were there, Captain Morrison said simply. Not openly, but we were monitoring. We watched your fleets prepare for battle. We saw the Helix ships position themselves for planetary bombardment. We even saw the moment when both sides realized they were about to commit genocide. Admiral Kethfer remembered that war. It had ended suddenly when both fleets withdrew without explanation. Military historians still debated why the conflict had stopped so abruptly. You interfered with our war? He asked. We prevented a massacre, Sarah Blake corrected. Both sides received anonymous intelligence about the other's true intentions. Both sides realized they were being manipulated by arms dealers who wanted a long, profitable conflict. Captain Morrison stood up from his command chair. Admiral, the galaxy is full of species that fight each other over resources, territory, and pride. But there's a bigger threat coming. Something from outside this galaxy that won't care about your borders or your politics. What kind of threat? Kind that consumes entire star systems, Captain Morrison said. We've detected their advanced scouts. They'll be here within 10 years, maybe 5. Commander Vextar laughed harshly. So you claim to be our saviors? One ship against an invasion? Not. One ship, Sarah Blake said quietly. One species. Humans don't build single ships, Commander. We build fleets. The Manhattan is just here to talk. Admiral Kethfer felt the blood drain from his face. How many ships do you have? Captain Morrison's smile returned. Enough, but that's not the important question, Admiral. The important question is whether you're willing to work with us to save this galaxy. And if we refuse, then you'll face the invasion alone, Captain Morrison replied. And you'll lose. Every species in this galaxy will lose, including humanity. That's why we're here. We can't save ourselves without saving everyone else. That bridge was completely silent now. Admiral Kethfer looked at his fleet on the tactical display, then at the single human ship that had made his entire force seem inadequate. What exactly are you proposing? He asked. Admiral Kethfer studied the human captain's face on the screen. The offer of cooperation sounded reasonable, but the Zephyrian military mind demanded proof of strength before trust. Captain Morrison, the Admiral said slowly, your words are impressive. But the Zephyrian Empire has survived for 3,000 years because we verify claims with evidence. You say your technology is superior to ours? Prove it. Commander Vextar nodded approvingly. Yes, if humans are truly capable of defending this galaxy, show us your weapons in action. Captain Morrison looked thoughtful for a moment. Admiral, I understand your position. Military leaders need to see capabilities before making alliances. Very well. Do you see the asteroid field? Approximately 50,000 kilometers to your port side. Admiral Kethfer checked his navigation display. The helix belt. Yes, we see it. Perfect. Hey, Commander Vextar, would you like to demonstrate Zephyrian firepower first? Show us what your best weapons can do against those asteroids. Commander Vextar's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Finally, a chance to show these humans the true power of Zephyrian military might. Admiral, permission to demonstrate our main cannon? Admiral Kethfer replied. He was curious to see how the humans would react to witnessing real firepower. Commander Vextar moved to the weapon station. His claws danced across the controls with practiced skill, targeting the largest asteroid. In the field, main cannon charging to full power. The bridge crew watched as energy built up in the flagship's primary weapon. The cannon was the pride of Zephyrian engineering, capable of cracking the crust of a small planet. Energy readings climbed higher and higher until the weapon reached maximum charge. Firing, Commander Vextar announced. A brilliant beam of blue energy shot from the Zephyrian flagship toward the asteroid field. The beam struck the largest rock, which was roughly the size of a small moon. The asteroid exploded in a spectacular display of light and debris. Smaller rocks were caught in the blast, creating a chain reaction of destruction. "Impressive, Captain," Morrison said over the communications link. "Clean destruction, efficient energy use. Your weapons technology is quite advanced." Commander Vextar smiled with pride. "That asteroid was 12 kilometers in diameter. Our main cannon can destroy targets much larger than that." "I'm sure it can," Captain Morrison replied. "Sarah, are our weapons ready for demonstration?" Sarah Blake's voice came through clearly. "All systems ready, Captain." "Lieutenant Ryan Cooper is standing by at the weapons station." A new voice joined the conversation. "Admiral Kethfer, this is Lieutenant Ryan Cooper, Chief Weapons Officer. With your permission, I'd like to demonstrate a different approach to the same problem." Admiral Kethfer looked at the debris field where the asteroid had been. "What do you mean, a different approach?" "Well, sir, your weapon destroyed the target completely. Very effective for eliminating threats. But what if the goal isn't destruction? What if the goal is precision and control?" Commander Vextar frowned. "What other goal could there be in combat?" "Let me show you," Ryan Cooper said. "Firing now." Admiral Kethfer watched his sensors carefully. He saw no energy beam, no missile launch, nothing that resembled a weapon firing. But something was moving from the human ship toward the asteroid field. "What did you fire?" he asked. "Kinetic projectiles." Ryan Cooper answered. "No energy signature, no heat trail. It's just metal moving very fast." Admiral Kethfer's sensors finally picked up the projectiles. They were small, much smaller than typical missiles. But they were moving at incredible speed. "How fast are they traveling?" "About 15% of light speed," Ryan Cooper replied. "Casually, not our fastest projectiles, but sufficient for demonstration purposes." Commander Vextar's jaw dropped. 15% of light speed? That's impossible for solid objects? "Not impossible," Ryan Cooper corrected, "just difficult. The projectiles are guided by individual AI systems. Each one has its own targeting computer and can adjust course during flight. The first projectile reached the asteroid field. Instead of destroying rocks like the Zephyrian cannon had done, it passed through a large asteroid and emerged from the other side. The asteroid remained intact, but now had a perfectly round hole through its center. Surgical precision," Ryan Cooper explained. "We can put a projectile through a specific point on a target without destroying the whole structure." More projectiles reached the field. Each one struck a different asteroid with perfect accuracy. Some created holes, others split rocks cleanly in half. One projectile somehow carved a spiral pattern into an asteroid's surface before embedding itself in the exact center. "How are you controlling them with such precision?" Admiral Kethfer asked. "Each projectile contains a quantum processor more powerful than most ship computers," Sarah Blake explained. "They can calculate millions of trajectory adjustments per second." Commander Vextar stared at the tactical display. "Your weapons are controlled by artificial intelligence?" "Not just controlled," Ryan Cooper said. "Our AI systems can adapt to changing conditions, learn from enemy behavior, coordinate with each other without human input." As if to demonstrate this point, the final wave of projectiles performed a complex dance through the asteroid field. They wove between rocks, ricocheted off surfaces, and struck targets from impossible angles. The display was so precise, it looked like a choreographed performance. "That's terrifying," Commander Vextar whispered. "That's the point, Captain Morrison said. Our weapons don't just destroy targets. They solve problems, but the real demonstration isn't finished yet." Admiral Kethfer watched as small objects began emerging from the human ship. They moved toward the asteroid field like a swarm of insects. "What are those?" Repair drones, Ryan Cooper answered. They're going to fix the damage we just caused. Zephyrian crew watched in amazement as thousands of tiny machines swarmed over the damaged asteroids. The drones worked together to seal the holes that had been carved by the projectiles. They welded metal patches, filled gaps with some kind of foam, and even polished the surfaces smooth. Within minutes, the asteroids looked exactly as they had before either weapon's demonstration. The only evidence of the battle was the debris field from the asteroid the Zephyrians had completely destroyed. "We can break things," Captain Morrison said quietly, "but we prefer to fix them. That's the difference between human warfare and what we've observed from other species." Admiral Kethfer felt a chill run through his body. The humans hadn't just demonstrated superior firepower. They had shown a completely different philosophy of combat. They could destroy with precision, but they could also repair and restore. "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "exactly how many of these weapons do you have?" Captain Morrison's smile was cold. "Admiral, that's the wrong question. The right question is, how many problems can we solve?" Admiral Kethfer stared at the repaired asteroids on his tactical display. The human demonstration had shaken everything he believed about warfare and military strength. He needed to understand these humans better. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said, "I request permission to board your vessel. I want to see your ship with my own eyes." Commander Vextar stepped forward quickly. "Admiral, that could be dangerous. You don't know their true intentions." Captain Morrison nodded on the screen. "Your commander is wise to be cautious, Admiral. But you're welcome aboard the Manhattan. We'll prepare a shuttle bay for your arrival. How many will be in your party?" "It's just myself and Commander Vextar," Admiral Kethfer replied. "And two security officers, of course. Sarah, please guide their shuttle to Base 7. Have Dr. Lisa Martinez meet us there with the atmospheric adjustment equipment." The communication ended, and Admiral Kethfer turned to his crew. "Commander, Vextar, select our best security team. I want to see what these humans are hiding." An hour later, the Zephyrian shuttle approached the massive human warship. Up close, the Manhattan was even more impressive. The hull was covered with sensors, weapon ports, and devices that served unknown purposes. Everything looked functional rather than decorative. "Look at the size of those docking bays," Commander Vextar said as their shuttle entered the designated bay. "They could fit our entire shuttle squadron in there." The shuttle bay was huge, but it wasn't empty. Smaller craft lined the walls. Some looked like fighters, others appeared to be cargo vessels. Still others had configurations the Zephyrians couldn't identify as their shuttle landed. Admiral Kethfer noticed teams of humans working on various ships. They moved with efficiency and purpose. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing. The shuttle bay doors closed and atmosphere flooded the chamber. A group of humans approached their craft. Leading them was Captain Morrison. Now visible in person rather than on a screen, Admiral Kethfer stepped out of the shuttle and studied the human captain. Morrison was shorter than most Zephyrians, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. His eyes were alert and intelligent. "Welcome aboard the Manhattan, Admiral," Captain Morrison said. "I hope the atmospheric mix is comfortable for you." The air was indeed breathable. Admiral Kethfer was impressed that the humans had adjusted their ship's environment for Zephyrian physiology so quickly. "Thank you, Captain. This is Commander Vextar, my second in command." Captain Morrison shook hands with both Zephyrians, a human gesture that felt strange, but somehow respectful. "This is Dr. Lisa Martinez, our intelligence officer, Lieutenant Ryan Cooper, whom you spoke with during the weapons demonstration." Dr. Martinez was a small woman with sharp eyes that seemed to take in every detail. Lieutenant Cooper was younger, with the bearing of someone who understood weapons and tactics. "If you'll follow me," Captain Morrison said, "I'd like to show you our ship. But first, I should warn you that the Manhattan isn't just a warship. It serves multiple functions." They walked through corridors that were wider than those on Zephyrian vessels. The walls were lined with screens showing various data streams. Admiral Kethfer noticed that many of the displays showed information about his own fleet. "You're still monitoring our ships," he observed. "We monitor everything," Dr. Martinez replied. "It's not personal, Admiral. We've learned that information prevents misunderstandings." They entered what appeared to be a command center, but it was much larger than any bridge Admiral Kethfer had seen. Dozens of humans worked at stations throughout the room. The level of activity was intense, but organized. "This is our tactical center," Captain Morrison explained. "We coordinate not just military operations, but also research, diplomatic initiatives, and humanitarian missions." Commander Vextar stopped in front of a large display. "These are star charts of the entire galaxy. How did you map so much territory?" 67 years of careful exploration," Lieutenant Cooper answered. "We visited most inhabited systems, though usually without making contact." Admiral Kethfer studied the charts. They showed not just star positions, but trade routes, military installations, and population centers for dozens of species. "You've been spying on everyone." "We've been learning," Dr. Martinez corrected. "Admiral, look at this display." She led them to a wall-sized screen that showed a timeline of galactic conflicts over the past century. Each war was marked with details about casualties, causes, and outcomes. "In the last 100 years, there have been 437 separate armed conflicts in this galaxy," Dr. Martinez said. "Most of them were preventable." "Preventable how?" Commander Vextar asked. "Better communication, resource sharing, mediation services," Dr. Martinez replied. "Most wars start because of misunderstandings or competition for resources that could be shared." Captain Morrison pointed to specific conflicts on the timeline. "The war between your empire and the Helix Confederation started because both sides thought the other was planning an attack. Neither side actually wanted war, but fear and poor intelligence led to violence." Admiral Kethfer remembered that conflict well. "How could you know what our leaders were thinking?" "Because we were listening," Dr. Martinez said simply. "We recorded every communication, every military briefing, every diplomatic meeting." Both sides were afraid and acting on incomplete information. They continued the tour, visiting sections of the ship that defied easy categorization. One area was clearly a research laboratory where scientists studied alien technology and biology. Another section appeared to be a medical facility equipped to treat dozens of different species. "You're prepared to heal aliens you've never officially met," Commander Vextar observed. "We've been preparing for official contact for decades," Captain Morrison replied. "We wanted to be ready to help, rather than just defend ourselves." The final stop was the ship's main engineering section. Power systems were unlike anything in Zephyrian experience. Energy flowed through crystalline conduits in patterns that seemed almost organic. "What kind of power source do you use?" Admiral Kethfer asked. "Controlled fusion, matter-antimatter reactions, and zero-point energy extraction," Lieutenant Cooper answered. "We have multiple backup systems for every critical function." Admiral Kethfer looked around the engineering bay. Everything was built with redundancy and flexibility in mind. If one system failed, 2 others could take over its function. "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "your ship isn't designed just for war. It's designed for survival." "Exactly," Captain Morrison replied. "Admiral, we don't build ships to win battles. We build them to win wars. And the best way to win a war is to make sure it never becomes necessary." Commander Vextar shook his head. "But if war does become necessary," Captain Morrison's expression grew serious, "then we end it as quickly as possible with minimum casualties on all sides. That's why we're here, Admiral. The coming threat won't give us the luxury of traditional warfare. We'll need to work together, or we'll all die together." Admiral Kethfer felt the weight of the human captain's words. Everything he had seen on this ship suggested that humans thought about conflict in ways no other species had considered. They prepared for war by preparing for peace. "What exactly do you want from the Zephyrian Empire?" asked. Captain Morrison led Admiral Kethfer and Commander Vextar to a secure briefing room deep inside the Manhattan. The walls were lined with screens showing star charts and data streams. Dr. Lisa Martinez activated a central holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. "Admiral, what I'm about to show you is classified at the highest levels of human government," Captain Morrison said. "But the threat we face makes secrecy pointless." The holographic galaxy began to shift and change. Dr. Martinez manipulated the controls, and the display zoomed in on various sectors. Red markers appeared throughout the galaxy, each one representing a conflict zone. Over the past century, we've documented every major war in galactic space. Dr. Martinez began. 437 conflicts, as I mentioned. But that's not the interesting part. She pressed another control and new data overlaid the existing markers. The interesting part is the pattern. Look at the timing and locations of these conflicts. Admiral Cuthbert studied the display carefully. First, the war seemed random. As Dr. Martinez highlighted different time periods, a pattern began to emerge. Someone has been manipulating these conflicts, Commander Vextar said suddenly. The timing is too convenient. Exactly, Dr. Martinez replied. Weapons dealers, information brokers, potent resource merchants have been deliberately triggering wars to increase their profits. They provide weapons to both sides, sell intelligence to the highest bidder, and profit from the chaos. The display changed again, showing trade routes and financial networks. We've tracked the money, the weapon shipments, and the communication patterns. The same group of individuals has been behind 70% of galactic conflicts. Admiral Cuthbert felt sick. Are you saying that most of our wars were artificial? Not artificial, Captain Morrison corrected. The anger and fear were real, but they were amplified and directed by people who wanted those wars to happen. Dr. Martinez brought up specific examples. The border dispute between your empire and the Callan Republic 3 years ago? It started when both sides received intelligence reports claiming the other was massing troops for invasion. I remember that crisis, Admiral Cuthbert said. Intelligence was rock solid. We had sensor data, communication, intercepts, everything. All fabricated, Dr. Martinez replied. The sensor data was created using holographic projections. Communications were generated by AI systems. Both sides received identical fake intelligence designed to make them afraid of each other. Commander Vextar's claws clicked against the table. How do you know this? Because we stopped it, Dr. Martinez said simply. We identified the source of the fake intelligence and provided both governments with proof that they were being manipulated. The holographic display showed the crisis timeline. Admiral Cuthbert could see how tensions had built over several weeks, then suddenly disappeared when both sides received new information. That was you? He asked. The anonymous intelligence package that proved the sensor data was fake. Was us, Captain Morrison confirmed. We've intervened in dozens of similar situations, always anonymously, always providing just enough information to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Dr. Martinez activated another section of the display. But stopping individual conflicts wasn't enough. We needed to understand the bigger picture, so we tracked the puppet masters. The display now showed a network of connections spanning the entire galaxy. Financial transactions, communication links, and travel patterns formed a web that touched every major government and military organization. The war merchants, Dr. Martinez said, that's what we call them, loose confederation, of arms dealers, information brokers, and chaos profiteers. They've been manipulating galactic politics for over 2 centuries. Admiral Cuthbert stared at the network diagram. How many people are involved? The core group is only about 50 individuals, Dr. Martinez replied, but they have thousands of agents, contractors, and useful idiots working for them. Most Danchet even know they're being used. Commander Vextar pointed to several nodes in the network. Some of these are in Zephyrian space. You're saying we have traitors in our government? Not traitors, Dr. Martinez said. Manipulated officials. People who think they're making patriotic decisions based on good intelligence. They don't know the information they're receiving has been carefully crafted to produce specific reactions. Captain. Morrison leaned forward. Admiral, this is why we revealed ourselves now. The war merchants are planning something bigger than individual conflicts. They're trying to trigger a galaxy-wide war. The display changed to show recent troop movements and military buildups across dozens of star systems. Every major power is currently preparing for war with their neighbors. The Helix Confederation thinks you're planning to invade their territory. The Callan Republic believes the Confederation is building superweapons. The Trade Federation is convinced everyone else is trying to destroy their economic networks. But none of that is true, Admiral Cuthbert said. No, it's not, Dr. Martinez agreed. But each government has evidence that makes their fears seem reasonable. intelligence reports, sensor data, intercepted communications. All carefully manufactured to create the maximum amount of paranoia and mistrust. Commander Vexstar studied the troop deployment patterns. If all these forces are mobilizing based on false information, what happens when someone makes the first move? Galactic War? Captain Morrison replied grimly. Every government will think they're defending themselves against unprovoked aggression. Fighting will spread from system to system until the entire galaxy is burning. Dr. Martinez brought up casualty projections. The numbers were staggering. Billions of deaths, entire civilizations destroyed, technological progress set back by centuries. This is what the war merchants want, she said. Maximum chaos, maximum profit. They've been building toward this moment for decades. Admiral Kethfer. I felt overwhelmed by the scope of the manipulation. Why are you telling us this? What can we do about it? That's where the external threat comes in, Captain Morrison said. We've detected signs of an extragalactic invasion force. Ships using technology we don't recognize, moving toward our galaxy from the void between galaxies. The display shifted to show the edge of galactic space. Strange energy signatures marked. The positions of unknown contacts moving at incredible speeds. They'll arrive in approximately 5 years, Dr. Martinez said. Maybe less. When they get here, they'll find a galaxy already destroying itself through manufactured wars. Perfect timing for an invasion, Commander Vexstar realized. Hit us. When we're weakest and most divided. Exactly, Captain Morrison said. We don't think it's a coincidence. We believe the war merchants are working with the invasion force, creating chaos to soften up the galaxy for conquest. Admiral Kethfer felt the pieces clicking together in his mind. You want us to help you stop the war merchants and prepare for the real threat? We want you to help us save the galaxy, Captain Morrison replied. But Admiral, we can't do it alone. We need the cooperation of every major government, starting with the Zephyrian Empire. The briefing room fell silent as Admiral Kethfer considered the implications. Everything he thought he knew about galactic politics had been turned upside down. Wars he had fought, enemies he had battled, conflicts he had considered necessary for Zephyrian survival, all of it had been manipulated by hidden puppet masters. What exactly are you proposing? He asked finally. Captain Morrison smiled, but it wasn't his usual unsettling expression. This time it looked almost hopeful. Admiral, we're proposing to end the age of manufactured conflict and enter an age of genuine cooperation. But first we need to expose the truth about the war merchants. To every government in the galaxy, Admiral Kethfer sat in silence for several minutes, processing everything he had learned. The weight of the revelation pressed down on him like a physical force. Centuries of Zephyrian military tradition, built on the assumption that their enemies were real and their wars were necessary, had crumbled in a single briefing. Commander Vexstar broke the silence first. Admiral, if what the humans say is true, then our entire military doctrine is based on lies, not lies. Dr. Lisa Martinez corrected gently. Manipulated truths. Your enemies were real enough when they shot at you. The difference is that someone else made sure those shots were fired. Admiral Kethfer looked up at Captain Morrison. You're asking me to trust everything to a species we met 3 hours ago? How do I know you're not manipulating us right now? Captain Morrison nodded approvingly. That's exactly the right question, Admiral. You shouldn't trust us. You should verify everything we've told you. He gestured to Dr. Martinez, who activated a new display. We're giving you complete access to our intelligence database. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence we've collected over 67 years. Take it back to your ship and have your best analysts examine it. Commander Vexstar's eyes widened. You're giving us your entire intelligence archive? Not just to you, Captain Morrison replied. We're planning to give the same information to every major government in the galaxy. Complete transparency is the only way to break the cycle of mistrust and manipulation. Admiral Kethfer studied the massive data archive being transferred to his ship's computers. This level of intelligence sharing is unprecedented.
What?
You reveal your secrets so freely? Because secrets are weapons, Dr. Martinez answered. The war merchants have used information as a weapon against us for too long. The only way to disarm them? is to make their secrets worthless. Captain Morrison stood, walked to the viewport showing the asteroid field where they had conducted their weapons demonstration. Admiral, in 12 hours, we're meeting with representatives from 17 other major governments, the Helix Confederation, the Callan Republic, the Trade Federation, and others. We're going to present the same evidence to all of them. Simultaneously, Commander Vextar asked. That's a massive security risk. Yes, it is, Captain Morrison agreed. We're betting that the value of cooperation outweighs the risks of exposure. But we need the Zephyrian Empire to be part of this alliance. Your military strength and political influence are crucial. Admiral Kethver felt the burden of decision settling on his shoulders. And if I refuse, if I decide this is all an elaborate, human deception, then you go back to your fleet and continue living in the old reality, Captain Morrison said simply. You prepare for wars against enemies who may or may not be real threats. You build weapons to fight battles that serve someone else's profit margins. And in 5 years, when the real invasion arrives, you face it alone. Dr. Martinez brought up the invasion timeline again, Admiral. Our projections show that a divided galaxy has less than a 10% chance of surviving the extragalactic assault. But a united galaxy, sharing technology and coordinating defenses, has better than 70% survival odds. Those are still not good odds, Commander Vextar observed. No, they're not, Captain Morrison admitted. But they're the best odds we're going to get. They're infinitely better than the odds of surviving as separate warring factions. Admiral Kethver walked to the viewport and stared out at his fleet. 25 of the most powerful warships in Zephyrian history, representing 3,000 years of military evolution. And yet, in the span of a few hours, they had been made to seem inadequate by a single human vessel? Captain Morrison, he said slowly, what guarantees can you give that humans won't use this alliance to dominate the galaxy? None, Captain Morrison replied honestly. Admiral, we can't guarantee anything about the future, I can tell you. About human history, we've had the technology to conquer this galaxy for at least 20 years. We chose not to. We chose to watch, to learn, and to prepare for the moment when we could help rather than rule. Dr. Martinez added, every intervention we've made has been to prevent conflict, not to gain territory or resources. We could have taken control of the war merchant networks and used them for our own purposes. Instead, we're planning to destroy them. Admiral Kethver turned back to face the humans. What exactly would this alliance look like? What would be expected of the Zephyrian Empire? Shared intelligence, coordinated defense planning, and joint technology development, Captain Morrison answered. Each species contributes what they do best. Zephyrians are excellent military strategists and fighters. The Helix Confederation builds the best shields in the galaxy. The Callan Republic has superior sensor technology. And humans, Commander Vextar asked. What do you contribute? Integration, Dr. Martinez replied. We're good at seeing how different pieces fit together. We've studied every species in this galaxy. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you can work together more effectively than any of you know yourselves. Admiral Kethver made his decision. Commander Vextar signaled the fleet. Stand down from battle stations and adopt escort formation. Commander Vextar looked surprised. Admiral, are you certain? No, Admiral Kethver replied. But I'm certain that the old way isn't working. If the humans are lying, we'll discover it soon enough. If they're telling the truth, then everything changes. He turned to Captain Morrison. The Zephyrian Empire will attend your meeting, will examine your evidence and consider your proposal. But Captain, understand that this decision goes against 3,000 years of military tradition. Captain. Morrison smiled, and for the first time, it looked genuinely warm rather than unsettling. Admiral, the best traditions are the ones that evolve when circumstances change. Your ancestors built an empire by adapting to new challenges. Now you have the chance to build something even greater. Dr. Martinez began transferring additional files to the Zephyrian computers. Admiral, these are detailed plans for the defensive alliance, ship designs, communication protocols, and strategic frameworks. Everything we've developed for coordinated galactic defense. Admiral Kethver watched the data transfer with amazement. The humans were giving away military secrets that most species would die to protect. You're either the most trusting species in the galaxy or the most confident. We're the most desperate, Captain Morrison replied. Admiral, we've run every simulation, analyzed every possibility. Without cooperation, everyone dies. With cooperation, everyone has a chance to live. The choice is really that simple. As they prepared to return to their shuttle, Commander Vexstar asked one final question. Captain Morrison, what happens after we defeat this invasion? What becomes of the Alliance then? Captain Morrison looked out at the combined human and Zephyrian fleets now moving together through space. Commander, that's a problem for future generations to solve. Right now, we just need to make sure there are future generations. Admiral Kethfer boarded his shuttle with his mind racing. In a few hours, he would present the human proposal to the Zephyrian High Command. T would recommend abandoning millennia of military doctrine in favor of cooperation with former enemies. It was the most dangerous decision of his career. It was also the most necessary. As the shuttle flew back toward the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kethfer watched the human warship. Through the viewport, Manhattan no longer looked like a threat. It looked like hope.